All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Monday, June 5th, 2023. If you've not done so already, please give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, let's get into it here today. Don't forget, stay tuned later. Told you Friday would have a little present for everybody, a little treat that'll be coming later tonight. So stay tuned for that. Keep those notifications turned on. Anyways, let's get into the markets here today. So spiders down 82 cents. Qs managed to scratch out a 25-cent gain despite the kind of sell the news here from Apple. And these events tend to happen all the time, right? The little, the digital conference, any type of those Apple events or they announce new products. We get that run up, right? And speaking of run up, I mean 125 to 185 here. 184.95 to be exact. In 6 months, less than 6 months actually, pretty good volume on that and a good sell. I told my members here around 1 o'clock, I said, don't be surprised if they pull the rug here and they do some type of shakeout. They always do that for those Apple events. We also said this last week. I think they probably want to get Apple to an all-time high before any sort of pullback. They're going to, the cheerleaders are going to come out on CNBC, and they were out this morning, and I'm sure all of them sold right at the top. I mean, they'll let us know tomorrow that they did that. But in any case, pretty good reversal there for Apple. The Qs still managed to scratch out a gain, and like my short video I said earlier, so much for rotation, right? Look at all the usual suspects. Google up 1%, Oracle up 1%, Microsoft up 16 basis points, Meta actually came back in towards the end of the day here, but Amazon up 85 bips. Big tech, usual suspects, right? All I heard all weekend was rotation. Small caps here, IWM down almost 1.5% on the day. Dow Transports had that nice breakout on Friday. That gave back, not all of the gains, but pretty much all of the intraday gains. Today down 1.14%. By the bell, XLF down 0.5% here today, retracing a lot of that candle. KRE down 2.5%. So all these things that were supposedly rotating gave back a lot of those gains. And again, it was just pretty much the big tech show. And if Apple hadn't reversed here, it would have been even more the big tech show. But Tesla having a nice day here, up 1.7. This has got a pretty good area here. I would say risk reward for a short setup. If we can get up there in the next couple of days. This is up 46%, by the way, in the last not even 7 weeks. Take a look at the trend line from the all-time high. And then around the weekly, there's your previous head and shoulder pattern there, that neckline, right into that nexus there. You've got some pivots coming into that level. So could be an interesting setup there on Tesla, way overbought and extended. Speaking of overbought and extended, spiders here. If we take a look at the Bollinger Bands, at one point today, the entire candle was outside of the Bollinger Band. And that's the first time that's happened since 2013. And when that happened, we got about a 5% correction over the next 6 days here. Markets are overbought. They're extended. They need to pull back, and you need to see rotation here. My guess is there's probably one of two things that are going to happen here. We're either going to continue to squeeze up in more dramatic fashion, and that's going to put in a longer-term top. Or we're going to pull back, like I said, maybe 5-6%. Retest these, pivots here, maybe even a little bit lower. I mean, the Qs here, the Qs could pull back, 8-9% and still be above this previous break, kind of this previous breakout area around 322, 323. They could go all the way down and fill this gap and still be above this trend line. So there's some room on the downside here. And again, I mean, we're getting really lofty. But either way, you get that, you get some type of pullback here. And ideally, if you're bullish, you want to see the IWM just kind of go sideways here with the triple Qs coming down, and then you see a rotation and then a continued rally, a broad-based rally, right? Again, we look at the AD here for the composite. There we go. And, again, it was supposedly it was going to be this big rotation Friday, and we came back in here today. So, and that's with the Qs green. Again, another advanced decline loss. With the green day for the NASDAQ. So that's what you want to see. For the bears, I think you don't want to see a continued squeeze, I suppose, but that may be structurally the best thing that can happen in the long term if you're looking for a long-term top here. Again, we talked about the VIX last week at the lowest level since February 2020. This was green today, and it was green all day. So, and it came, even when the spiders were up, even when Apple was pumping to an all-time high, this was up. So indicating some, maybe some smart money starting to pick up some hedges here. We had some rumblings out of, of the White House in regards to Taiwan. So that's starting to pick up here. I don't see any risk in NVIDIA at all, even at 30, 35 times sales. I'm just kidding, obviously. That's a huge thing. By the way, take a look at TSM today. That was down pretty big this morning. So, and it did come off the lows, to be fair, finished down 1%. Just got to keep an eye on this. If we get some more rumblings here, and I said this a few months ago, if TSM is just randomly down 5, 7, 8% in one day on no news, expect something out of China. That's really all I can say about that. But, it's holding up. But, that's something that could be a risk factor here. The market's definitely not priced in currently. We are in a Fed blackout period as well. So, we won't see those Fed speakers. And then we have the FOMC next week. They're expected to pause. So that's also priced in. So, we're just seeing kind of complacency, if you ask me. And I know a lot of my whole timeline is, SPY's going straight to 440, no pullbacks. And, I think when everybody gets kind of to that one side of the boat here, we want to start looking in the other direction here, especially when you come into a big 618, right? So that got tagged today, and we're already overbought going into that. So I just, even if you think we're going higher, you have to think at some point, you can't keep taking without giving some back. But either way, basically a flat to lower day for the markets. And again, the big tech story here, QQQ still managing to scratch out a gain on the day. Semiconductors down 1.25. So still kind of inside of this green bar. If you lose that, we're probably headed down to 135 and possibly down to 129. We take a look at the weekly again. Big red bar, breakdown bar that got tested, and so far that's held on the downside. So SMH coming in again. We talk about extended. That is it right there. IGV still managing to hold up today. Again, up 0.2%. Again, we talked about Oracle being green, Microsoft green as well. So that does hold up. The cloud software area, Adobe here, that was actually red on the day. But IGV managing to scratch out a decent gain. And again, you're going into this previous consolidation, bear flag kind of consolidation here on the weekly. So a lot of supply in this area, but again, it's holding up well. So we'll respect it. Dow Transports, again, we talked about 1.25 on the downside there. If you get back below this trend line, could be a failed breakout. Again, watch that by the end of the week. But really, so far, no follow through with the transports or with small caps. Again, Russell 2000 there, still inside of that. Now, it's not broken, nothing terrible just yet. Yet an inside day. But again, remember the macro pattern here, the weekly. This is, all bearish consolidation. And even with that pop last week, you're still well inside of this red bar here. And again, the monthly, still nothing too hot either. So anyways, over here let's go to bonds. All right, so let's flip over here. So there's our 2-year yield. So that did back off a little bit, but again, we back tested the 4.28 area, and essentially that 20 MA kind of upsloping underneath price here. Trend is up here. That's all you can say right now. I know everybody's expecting Fed cuts here, but if this continues higher, you test 5% and you get through that, there's going to be no cuts. That's already my base case anyway, but just be aware of that. 5-year backing off a little bit as well. 10-year, a little bit of a doji there, but still starting to trend up again. I like that retest candle and that push up we had on Friday. 30-year managing to scratch out a little gain. Again, 4% high, basically an equal high, another equal high. So triple top with what? Higher lows. So trend is up here on yields. Just be aware of that moving forward. The market doesn't care right now, but you start to see them really start to push higher, and it will care. So just be aware of that. XHB, so on the housing, that was down 1%. Still an inside day. That is a fake print there. By the way, there was some exchange issues this morning. The SPY, VOO, a couple of other names. XHB was one. This was not printing for a while, and the bid-ask was really messed up. So there was some fake prints out there, but XHB down 1% on the day. ITB down 62 basis points, still an inside day, so nothing broken there. But if you lose that green bar low, that could be more meaningful. But right now, no real problems. The trend is still hanging in there okay. VNQ, also an inside day here inside of Friday's candle. And you did close above that red bar on Friday, so that is a sign of strength here. If you lose this, 80, 74 area, You know, it's just more continued weakness here for VNQ. But again, no follow through on this kind of rotation play just yet. But you know, nothing to say that they're broken. It could just be a little inside day and nothing more out of that, at least at this point. XLF down 0.5%. Again, inside day here, big picture, still weekly inside bar, bear chop, so nothing really great there. KRE, we talked about, gave back a lot of the gains. You know, just it had a nice little zigzag up here, and there's nothing to say it can't consolidate for another pop. But you don't want to see it lose that green bar. You don't want to see it lose that 40 handle again. KBE, same thing. That did make a slight higher high Friday, and that's hanging in there. But again, gave back a lot of those gains down to almost 2.25. Broker dealers down 1%. This still looks okay though. Only retraced about 50% of that green bar, and it closed in the upper 25% or so of it. So this can consolidate. You can get up to that 460 handle, but just be aware. I don't like the financials here on a more macro type scale, but broker dealers holding up. All right, crude. So crude is all over the map today. OPEC cuts now up just 6 cents there, and we do have a red candle there from the futures, but we did fill the gap all the way. Notice something about crude here. So the first cut, right, a couple weeks ago, it was like a month ago. Well, actually, not about 2 months ago now, April 3rd. And we had this big gap. So 76 all the way up to 80. And now they announce cuts, or they're going to cut, and they are mulling it, whatever. And we go from just under 72 only to 75. And now we're actually red. So we're getting less of a reaction on those, on that supposedly bullish news. That does kind of feel a little bearish to me, right? So whenever you have good news and you can't hold gains, it is a little bit of a red flag here. Speaking of rotation, look at XLE, green to red day, down 2/3%. A little lower high there. XOP, same exact thing. That gave back a lot of those gains. OIH gave back a lot of the gains here. So crude, I don't like that. I mean, this pattern is really sloppy here, but you take this pivot, you take out 68. This is going to the lows, and I think you break the lows if you go down there one more time. In the second half of the year, this is going to be a huge buy. I would say any correction that happens is going to be a gift. But right now, that's really all what I'm seeing here. And by the way, you can make a case that this trend line here, it's not perfect because it's over the course of like two or 3 years. This is back to 2020. You can make a case we retested that right now. And by the way, take a look. Let me get rid of that old wedge because we don't really care anymore. Although, take a look at that. How about this? So there's your highs, connect those highs. But either way, look at the weekly. Kind of patterns that. Big red candle with volume, inside bar. So this is still holding up here. Bears are still holding this. And you never closed above 82.72 either way, on a weekly basis. So I would say there's a little bit of a downside bias here for me on crude. Would I short it here? No, because they could easily put in a higher low and then come back up. I need to see pattern, but just be aware of that. We had good news and couldn't hold the gains. XLE, again, we talked about that. That came back in. XOP, pretty good reversal. Could not close above the 50 MA. Same thing with the OIH. That lost the 50 MA as well, down 1 3/4. So we'll watch these energy plays here moving forward. Nat Gas did have a nice day though. That was up 4.5%. We talked about this little channel, and that's held up so far so good. We had a pullback last week. Little doji here, and then intraday all over the map here, but recovering nicely off the lows, and that's holding up well. We'll see if this makes one more test of this upper band here. But you've got 3 higher lows now and 3 higher highs. So we'll watch Nat Gas here. I think if you can push up one more time, you could get some short covering here and a nice push or a sustained push in Nat Gas. Anyways, let's go over to the dollar index. So like yields here, it had kind of a higher low. And again, these are positively correlated right now. As we know, 20 MA, we got a bid off of that, a little bit of a doji here today. This consolidates more, it's going higher. It's really that simple. No real problems here. You do have a lot of supply to get through, but you go sideways. It's telling you that is looking to get through that. So I don't see any issues right now on the DXY. Gold actually holding up okay. So, up 40 basis points, still inside of this area, kind of this red bar here. Weekly, no problems though, so I can't say anything bad about it until you break this 20-week moving average. You do that, it's to 1900 and then possibly 1875. But gold's holding up okay right now. We'll leave it at that for the time being. Silver on the weaker side. Again, rejection of the 20 MA. If you get a higher low, then you could possibly go up to 2450. But right now, we'll just leave it at that. It looks a little bit on the softer side. Platinum did have a nice day, though, up 3%. However, 1040, that's been our POC for a while. That's where it stopped. But you had good volume, right? So good volume there. So, nothing to say it can't get through that tomorrow, or maybe you could flag a little bit and push up. But it did back off that area. I need to see a lot more from it. Palladium, really just up 250 there on the day. Nothing crazy here. I'd like to see this pierce double bottom still, but, we'll have to wait and see on that. And then copper was green on the day, up 90 basis points. And it's hanging in there okay. Below the 200 moving average still. I'm not huge on copper right now, but if it consolidates here, it could have a zigzag up. So we'll respect that for the time being. All right, on to Bitcoin here. So we finally have something to talk about with Bitcoin that doesn't involve basically what I've been saying for the last 5-6 weeks. So pretty good dump, right? Binance looks like they're getting sued. Some of the things they said in their statement was pretty hilarious. I can't even say them on here. But we are going to close unless we get a mega bid in the next 3 hours. We're going to get a breakdown from 26,836. So that green bar low is going to get negated. That's negative. That's bearish. And our head and shoulder can play out. Should take you down to that 200 MA. Now, here's your one saving grace. You got 7 more days to save this 20 moving average, right? So, we could fart around down here for a few days, and then we could get a bid, right? And then reverse. So the weekly's still not broken yet. Even though you are below the 20-week moving average, you need to get a close below that, which won't happen until the end of the week. So we don't know what's going to happen until then, but you have put in kind of a little bear base here, that big red candle, and you've stayed inside of that, and now you're pushing lower. So, right now, I'd have to give it more of a downside bias. By the way, the whole sector, right? Coinbase down over 8%, Riot, Marathon, MSTR. These all took pretty good hits today. So the whole sector, we Ether down 4.4, Doge down 7%. So pretty good hit here across the board. I would look for it. I wouldn't do anything with it now because it's too late to chase it. But, I would look for it at that 200 moving average. And that's basically where your head and shoulder target is. So we'll see what that does over the next couple of weeks. But again, weekly still not broken until proven otherwise, till we get that weekly close. So that's why it makes it a little bit tricky here. Anyway, spiders, again, to reiterate, just really overbought and extended, especially the NASDAQ. As we know, no rotation yet. I think either way you look at it, we're either going to put in a blow off top with an extended move here, or we put in a correction, and then maybe you can get some type of summer chop, melt up, something of that nature. But again, we are into the 618 now. We're into a double top. To me, I got to think probabilities favors some downsides here. But anyways, guys, can wrap up here. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow.